So you're basically exploring a haunted house. I sent a very flat look over at Malcolm, who from the smirk he was sending me knew that wasn't what I had said at all. It's an old server. So like an old house, abandoned and alone. Full of old data. Good stuff hidden in the attic. He added, and I felt my eye twitching. And full of demons to protect it. Ghosts there to kill trespassers. I'll kill you. You love me. He offered instead, and the elevator opened to the netrunning cave. I, being the bigger and better person, ignored him, and didn't punch him in the arm. The fact he was carrying the food had nothing to do with it, but I did notice that when he put the food down he pointedly moved out of my reach. Smart boy. All right, let me set up. You need anything? I asked him, as I wandered over to my netrunning chair. Nope. All good, he said, tapping on the bags of food. Preem. It might take me a while to get going, so feel free to relax. I told him as I went through some checks. The chair coolant was a little low, I'd likely need to update it soon, but it was still good. Everything was set. I leaned back, hooked myself up and closed my eyes. Then opened them in a new room. I walked over to the nice couches and flopped in, which didn't really feel like anything since I was now in the net. First thing first? I needed to finish leveling up. I was going to pump some numbers up, but I remembered previous issues. Glancing at my current netrunner stats, it really proved the issue. Intelligence 14, due to cyberization, maximum value has increased by 4. Breach Protocol 12, Quick Hacks 9, Programming 13. Other than programming, everything was way too low. As much as my fingers itched to put a point into Quick Hacks, I skipped it, and instead put a point into Breach Protocol. I shivered as I suddenly had experience in skimming data centers. Cutting back traces while digging through data, and moving through server architecture. Sorting the feeling, I processed it, and only when I was feeling like it had all settled did I pull up my system and drop another. As I knew, getting too many skill upgrades close together was a bit intense. The second data drop gave me even more on moving through the net, the sense that what we saw wasn't the truth, and if you looked at it in different ways, you could move and slip through things as if they were simply suggestions. There was knowledge touching on something big, I felt, but it wasn't quite complete. Not ready. I started looking, just without my eyes, noticing how fragile this lobby room was. The walls, despite looking like warm woods and stone, were fragile. Cardboard with pictures on them. There was no durability. I could break them down even without my admin access. A server was a series of data points, but the connections between them were only natural suggestions. It wasn't like data on a hard drive was stored in rooms to access only through a door. No, it was all data, and the access was usually the knowledge on how the computer could process the data listed, where to find those numbers to represent. I shook off my thoughts and stood up. Internalize the information and move on. Pulling up the old data that Vortex had given me, I found the IP for the server she'd told me about, and I slipped out of my lobby and into the net. Then instantly into a leap across the city along the web lines, taking me far out of the normal connection points. If I had to position this from reality. Not out of the city, but deeper than normal, like it was buried underground as the new net was built upon the old. I checked the details she'd given me, and looked down. That wasn't actually a sewer along the street, but an old door that now only showed a sliver of what it had once been, a data access point. I squatted down and sent in a ping, watching my data stream through without too much disruption. I can see why Vortex might not have wanted to check this place out for long before leaving. A squeezed data point like this would make latency increase inside. Unless you fixed it. I looked over the connection. Technically it was being overlaid with a more modern data net, which is what the street I was standing on represented. Technically it was a programming issue, rather than hardware, or else this connection wouldn't even exist. Could I reroute the data stream to give better access? Yes. Could I do it without pissing off whoever owned this data stream? Maybe. As long as the adjustment was short-term, and I kept it from causing too many ripples. A data choke point would be noticed pretty quickly. I looked around, confirmed no one was around so to speak, and dived into the data. Slow and steady, I hacked in. The router that controlled this data area was accessed as quietly as I could, then with just a little work, I made a single adjustment on the router's workload. The net around me shifted, the small door that led to this server was now bare, a set of ancient steps leading down into it, as the street had seemed to split open. There was no hesitation as I entered, time wasn't on my side. I didn't need to rush, but the longer I waited the higher chance someone would fix what I had just done and cut me off while in a dangerous server. I slipped through the door and instantly stilled. This server was old. The architecture didn't. I looked around, but even that caused some visual issues. The server was flat. Like a 3D person looked at 2D. That's what the sense it gave me was. Whoa, what is that? Malcolm asked in my ear and I shook my head. Some sort of weird server architecture. I explained as I looked around. I was in a lobby structure, but it wasn't anything like the servers I'd been in before. I remembered the white empty room that the idiots that had tried to kill Malcolm had used for their car dealership website. I remembered the fractured, distorted realm of the broken server Yoko had showed me. This wasn't like either of them. A distorted low-res area that my display was struggling to properly convey. Almost instinctively, I pulled open my CyberDeck systems and clocked back some settings, and suddenly the area reshaped itself correctly. Comparing it to 2D had been correct. I realized what I was seeing. This was an old-school server. Back before netrunning had gotten as advanced, this server didn't have the architecture for the sort of interactivity I was used to, so everything showed up as data lines and untextured shapes. Geez, this is crazy, I feel like it's giving me a headache. Malcolm added, and I nodded but remembered he couldn't see that. Yeah, old server, see that? That's the data line to the server data. I pointed out a sort of hallway made out of glowing lights. But fortunately this server is so old a lot of the security won't even work on modern netrunners. Instead of heading down the hallway, I simply walked over and walked up the wall as if it was the ground, and then out of the room that was meant to keep runners inside. Standing on top of the hallway, I simply walked over it, bypassing the access and security restrictions, by jumping over the data node. Digital architecture had changed drastically with the advent of netrunners. Just putting a password on a file wasn't going to stop a netrunner. You needed to build server fortifications and defenses from entities that were partially digital. It was funny, but the same advancements meant to stop netrunners were how AI could be stopped as well. Even if netrunners were nothing compared to a proper AI. I had a thought that maybe it had been the AI that had pushed the advent of these defenses instead of netrunners, and it was the netrunners that came after that had run into AI defenses. Either way, it didn't matter. I walked over the hall, and the next room, although really it was more like a mess of data points, was supposed to be some sort of hub page. Unfortunately, it wasn't unprotected. I could see 4 IMP demons wandering around. The demons were old, slow and stuttering along pre-planned paths, not the sort of thing that would be a danger to a modern netrunner. Well, only if they knew how to move out of the architecture. I poked my hand into the room. The security of this room already bypassed meant it was less a solid wall, and more just a data processing node. Then I started uploading, and after everything was ready I sent off my heat bullet MK.1, the attack was registered by the server and the entire glowing lights shifted to a darker red. An early alert system for the demons inside the server. Neat. But it was too late, the attack was too strong for old demons. 250 XP gained. 250 XP gained. 250 XP gained. 250 XP gained. They burst into sparkles of broken data, and that was enough for me. I started hacking now that I was past the security and the demons were gone. Sending in a ping to the data node, and watching as my own light, a purple hue burst out and started pinging through the server. Lines of purple light shifting and spiraling all over as I stood up and just watched as the lights showed me an outline of the entire server. Okay, over there was data storage. But I narrowed my eyes. I pinged again as the light faded after a while and watched again. Something was off. There was definitely a data node that had multiple pathways, but only one lit up, the others remained dark. Definitely a security feature. Something keeping files off the root access, I blurred as I jumped along the server. There were some defenses here and there, but not any other demons. Just old server traps that I bypassed by literally walking over the normal access channels. I arrived at the data node, and slipped inside. The channel had 4 pathways. Normal entrance and exit, and then to that. There was a bit of floating data hidden within the data of the structure. It would be difficult to see. I imagine if I was using old Netrunner decks using a small screen as my visual point. So was it added after the server had been created to mitigate Netrunners? Either way I was able to access it, and with barely a thought cracked the security that it represented and then opened up a new path. I once more jumped out of the server architecture as I headed through the path. Another set of demons were guarding this section of the server, and once more they were destroyed without being able to register I even existed. 250 XP gained. 250 XP gained. I slipped back in, and accessed the data. Malcolm, I'm going to download this. You might see some lag distortion. Sure Motoko, find something good? Yeah actually. This is old weapon data, and it was stolen from its source. Oh yeah? He prompted and I could hear him breaking up a bit as the bandwidth was used up as I started downloading. Yeah, Militech Electronics looks like. Someone really wanted their laser technology. Laser tech? Why bother with that garbage? It's only garbage because the tech got stuck after the data crash. This looks like pre-data crash files, so someone might be interested. Whoa, what? You think it'll be worth a ton of eddies? Nah, probably not. This is all stuff Militech already has, I think. I recognize some of these weapons. I looked through the blueprints, and yeah, I think that was a Militech Electronics laser cannon. Yeah, definitely the laser cannon. It was just too bad Militech gave such a cool-sounding name to a weapon that was notoriously bad. Not only was it incredibly unreliable, the effect of the laser was not great. I mean, I was still tempted to get one, but they just weren't sold over the counter at gun shops or something. Lasers were cool, and I really wanted to pew-pew at people with one, but they just sucked, and no one even sold them anymore. Militech was one of the few companies that had worked on laser tech before the data crash, and they hadn't really kept up with it. Too many other projects to try and focus on in the meantime. Still, this data could definitely sell to someone. Arasaka probably already had it. It's been more than 50 years after all, but are the smaller core? Newer ones? Anyone that still had ideas for making laser weapons might want Militech's old weapon blueprints. Hell, I wanted them too. Definitely going to keep a copy. The lag ended as the download ended, and I jumped back to the previous node, and broke into the second hidden data point. Once again I simply walked outside of the pathway, avoiding whatever nonsense danger existed within until I reached the data node. This one didn't have any obvious defenses, no patrolling demons, or anything. I slipped inside, keeping myself aware even with the stilted way of looking at things. But when I accessed the data point there was nothing, at least nothing bad. Just another file repository. I brought it up, swiping through it, and quickly realized this wasn't something I had any interest in: ancient, billing and sales. I quickly noticed plenty of black market dealings, and illegal goods flowing through this ancient corporation, and finally an actual name. Elite Electronics. Never heard of them, and they probably didn't exist anymore. I copied the data, and then once the lag ended I disappeared out of the server back to the street. A few moments TP fixed the data adjustment I did, and I disappeared from the area. Going to see if I can sell this stuff. Just a bit longer, Malcolm. Take your time, Toko. I'm just hanging around. Honestly, I was kind of disappointed. I'd wanted XP, which I guess I'd gotten a little of, but I wanted more than what little I'd found in the server. Oh well, not all of them could hide Balrons, or be full of distorted demons looking to murder whoever slipped inside. I popped back out at the facsimile of Kabuki roundabout. Yoko was my first stop. Taking a slow path up to her club, I looked around. Nothing really changed here it seems, but at least it felt like there were 3 dimensions, and textures existed. I felt almost light-headed after being in that old server. The flatness of it, and the flowing lights felt like a Tron movie. The first one, if that. I slipped into the club bobbing to the music, and spotting Yoko without issue. As I threw up a hand in hello at her, she nodded, but went back to the conversation she was having. She wasn't alone with a few netrunners sitting around her, and they were obviously having a thing. There wasn't any rush to sell ancient data, so I took another seat, and waited. I took in the music that was playing. Not a band I recognized, and it wasn't terrible. Very electronic, but it sounded all right. I was tapping my finger to the beat, processing the changes and already figuring out the pattern when I stilled, as I realized someone was there beside me. Our eyes met, and I realized this wasn't a conversation I really wanted, but... Hey! I greeted Sasha, who seemed to my surprise to hesitate for a second before building herself up. Hi Kit, Motoko. You mind if we chat? She asked with a smile that was trying to be confident, and not too much. I waved at the seat across from me, and she slipped in. We stared at each other for a while, but I realized I really should start. Hey, listen, about what happened? No, wait, please. I'm sorry I pulled that scop on you. Yeah, it was a reza move. She started cutting me off and even waving her hands at me, like she would have covered my mouth if she could. I screwed up? I wasn't. No, I don't have any excuse. I was showing you around, but wanted to play. It was stupid. It was. Well, yeah, don't throw me into stuff like that, but what happened was my fault. Not yours. I offered, and the older woman brightened up at my response. Thanks, kitten. Sure thing, pain in my ass. I offered back, smiling, and she flashed a look of shock for a moment, before smiling, her lips quirked into that very cat-like smirk. He. She giggled in return. I've been called worse. That I believe. Preem. I was honestly. I've been in touch with Becca. She mentioned you were okay, but that was a lot of damage. It was fine, I had backup. It gave me a good excuse to go get an upgrade. Yeah, I can see, you're not skezzing as much anymore. What is that? She asked, obviously interested. Arasaka Shadow. MK.4. She whistled at my answer. Really? Where did you get your cute little kitten paws on one of those? Arasaka are protective. It was stolen, and my chum is an Arasaka student. She got it covered in their logs, so I won't have any ninjas sniffing around for it. Nova. She cheered. Well, oh my, that's quite a jump from that Sicho you used to have. That's great. Maybe that whole thing wasn't so bad after all. She offered, and I realized what kind of person Sasha was. She was the type to accept any instance of a silver lining to excuse bad actions. I considered calling her on it, but I'd been honest. My freakout in the Netrunner arena was my thing, not her. It wasn't great, but it's over. No lasting harm done. I agreed, and she once more smiled sunnily. Well, if it isn't a certain mangy stray cat. Yoko suddenly broke in, her body, more detailed and formed than both of ours, loomed over the table, glaring down at Sasha. Nu ah. Motoko forgave me. She looked at me, with big pleading eyes, and I snorted. I don't remember asking. Yoko offered, not quite hissing, but there was a threat in there. Yoko, I was looking for you, I said, interrupting the two Netrunner women. Oh? She asked, and instantly slid into the seat, pushing Sasha back as she basically took her place. PFFT. I held back my laughter as the noise Sasha made in turn really was like a cat. Don't push my avatar around, you bitch, Sasha grumbled, and Yoko just quirked an eyebrow. Vixen is more accurate, she offered, then turned entirely to me. I just came out of an old server, ancient really. Pulled some data, some tech, and some finance crud. Wanted to see if you had any interest. All? Ooh. Let me see. Sasha begged, jumped up and waved her hand, doing gimme motions. I'll throw the flea-ridden stray out, Yoko said, and Sasha only had a moment to yelp before vanishing. I blinked and realized Yoko had force-booted Sasha. She's not going to be happy about that. It's fine. The stray knows what she did, Yoko offered simply and then held out a hand. So I pulled a bit of the data for the laser weapon blueprints, and handed them over. She looked them over and I could tell from the smirk on her face that she found it cute rather than interesting. Old data. Yeah, I know. Don't look at me, like I'm a preschooler showing off a finger painting, that's rude. She chuckled, deep-throated and amused at my description, but honestly it was true. Unfortunately this isn't worth much. Yeah, I figured. Not many into lasers, and anyone who is probably has it. Yes, I can sell it though, she added, and I perked up. Yeah? Yes. I know a company, Netrunner, that would be interested. You have the rest? The whole lot, I think, I offered, and then pointedly didn't offer it to her, just smiling. She responded to my smile with a smile of her own. Good, if you had just handed the data over I'd have disappeared just to teach you a lesson, she said without any shame, and I scoffed. I know where you are in the real world, you fox, I reminded her, and she just smirked, her face shifting in a way a human's couldn't. That would be a fun time. I returned her smile, and then waved a hand at her. I'm looking more for server locations than anything. Decided to do some more diving? Something like that. The more full of demons the better. I see. I'll give you a nice bonus for this, if you tell me why you're so fascinated by destroying demons, she added slyly, and at that, I knew she'd been keeping an eye on me. Is that knowledge something Netrunners at the arena have been asking about? Just one or two. Vortex is one of them. Uck. Not her again. But no, I'm not telling you. Very well. Let me pull up some servers I know about that fit your bill. And so we got to haggling, and as always I was sure I was being swindled. Should have called Hiromi for this. Niu. I groaned and looked around again. It was very pink. And full of anime cat stuff. I like cats, I like anime cats, I don't cover literally everything in them. Welcome to my lobby, Naya, she offered, when I didn't run away and even did a cat motion with her hands like they were paws. I moved to slip past her and leave, and she once more yowled. Niu. Sorry, she begged, and I sighed and looked at her. All right, we're as private as we're likely to get. What's up, Sasha? Okay. Serious time. See? Serious face. She pointed at her cheeks, which were still fighting to shift into a smile. I just waited. Right, so. I've got a gig, Maine jumped into it, and it's going Nova for something easy to slide back into, but the client is a total corp type, and wanted his pet Netrunner to take part. You know how it is. She grumbled, and I very much did not know how it was, but I just nodded along and made accepting noises. Right. Right? So this total uck type, she's so uptight, anyway. She has a cadet netrunner and totally showed off their teamwork. This kid is like Nova. I'll admit, she's definitely got some real hardware under the hood, you know. But it's not far. She whined at me, looking at me with big watery eyes. I just sent her a flat look, Sasha. The point? Right, serious. I can do that, she said, and her serious face lasted half a second before she smiled. Anyway, the gig is going fine, but I got a little heated, and made some remarks to the other runner. And I may have a bit of a challenge on my hands? I blinked slowly, very slowly, letting Sasha know exactly how little I cared about this. Nio. Don't look at me like that, I said. I'm sorry. I'm not sure if you're more annoying now or before, I commented, and I watched her jaw drop for a second before she went full pout mode, her cheeks puffing up, and she glared at me with eyes that were about to start crying. Which was literally something she had to choose to do. The avatar didn't replicate tears. Kia itten. Sasha, did you come find me just to ask me to help you again? I asked, and she instantly shook her head back and forth. No. Sashanyan wouldn't do that. She stopped and seemed to regain herself. It was just coincidence, Motoko. I was there to grab some data for Maine, and saw you and had to take my chance to apologize. You haven't been answering my calls. You can ask Yoko if you don't believe me. I do, it's fine. Okay, so what is this challenge, and why do you need me? Well, that old bitch. She said that since her having an apprentice was part of her talent, that her apprentice could help. She tried to say I didn't have an apprentice because I'm a SCOP runner. I just yelled that she was dumb, but please, if you back me up we can totally de-res this bitch. She'll have to apologize and everything. I looked at Sasha. I honestly wanted to just tell her, no thanks. That I wasn't interested, because I wasn't. I had my own things to deal with, but this netrunner that the client pulled in. Do I know her? Oh, some uptight bitch called Kiwi. She's alright, honestly, but she's got this ego. Uck. I breathed in and out, a sympathetic response, as I wasn't actually breathing as my avatar. Okay, fine, I'll help. What, really? Yes. Kitten. She jumped around like a happy cat that was getting a treat, and I just rolled my eyes. I did want to see Lucy again, but more importantly, I really wanted to do something to Kiwi. I really liked her in the show. Cool trench coat. Mysterious mask, spider webcam skin, like she was cool. Then she turned traitor. It was a complicated feeling, but if I could ruin her day by letting Sasha one-up her, well, that was worth a bit of time. I glanced at my stat sheet. Intelligence 14, due to cyberization, maximum value has increased by 4. Breach Protocol 14, Quick Hacks 9, Programming 13. That was solid, but nothing amazing. Not if I was going to face a top netrunner in some challenge, so I'd need to put in a lot of extra work. Maybe make a slight change and put a few extra stat points in just to really build my netrunning up. But that reminded me that I needed to know something. Sasha. What's this challenge all about? Oh, breaking into some corpo security. We each try from different angles. Pretty standard netrunner challenge. Oh. I can probably sneak into the location if we need. Hiss. Bad kitten. You can't cheat at a netrunner challenge. She cat scratched at me, and I continued to just look at her blankly until she stopped. But yeah, it's not a good idea. The location is tight, but we can get in from the net for sure. It's just a matter of who can do it faster and with less trouble. All right. Well, I guess I'll be helping you out then, Sasha. My words didn't get the response I wanted as she shifted to looking at me with once again teary eyes as she begged for something. I had no idea what she wanted. What? My kawaii. You should call me senpai. How can I show off to that nasty old hag without my cute kawaii calling out to M? Not a chance. Niu. Motoko, why do you put yourself into these positions? I sighed, and just shook my head as this stray cat that apparently adopted me continued to badger me. This was such a stupid waste of my time. I should be leveling up like I had planned for today. Sasha. Yeah, Nyan? I need a server full of demons to test some things on. You know of a good one? I asked, and she instantly nodded and opened her mouth to tell me, but then her brain caught up and she shifted back to that look. I sighed. Please help me, senpai, you're my only hope. I said, maybe a little flat, but it worked, and Sasha cheered as she once more bounced around. Yes. Nyahahaha. Don't worry. Sasha senpai will hook you up. I regret asking. I'm gonna go. Niu. Dash. So. Sorry, Malcolm. You good still? Yeah, Chum, just checking in. That was quite an experience. Tell me about it. I grumbled as I appeared at the IP address that Sasha had sent me. Welcome, my little apprentice Korhai Kitten-chan. Don't call me that. You wanted a server that has a lot of defenses? Welcome to the old No/Brainer corporate access server. She waved her hand, shaking it around as if unveiling something at a circus. Okay. Never heard of them. Course not. No/Brainer's been scop for like 20 years, kid. She teased with a stuck-out tongue. They used to make agent progs. Stupid shit, but they had a prog called Hustle. Hustle? Basically. You'd sign up and it would connect the gonk doing it to someone that needed something ran. Packages, food pickups. All sorts of things. That sounds like Uber or DoorDash. I didn't say, but I got the idea. Exactly. Stupidly dangerous. What kind of gonk would run packages across the city for like 10 eds? You're likely to end up walking through territory you shouldn't be in, or some ganger sees you walking with a package. Easy mark. She explained, making a throat-slicing motion. Right, and this server is theirs? Yep. See, the gonks needed a server that could process the calls and requests. All good, but they expanded a bit too much. They tried to move into Pacifica, and well, the VD boys at the time didn't like it. No/Brainer, though, they just hardened up their server. Didn't work, not really. They lasted a while until their whole corp crashed down, and then the server got bought up by a new corp, and the server was fucked with by the VD. Sasha waved for me to enter, and I took that with a lot of hesitation as I moved into the server lobby. Wow. Right? The server is still up. Let's just say one of the big netrunners tricked the current owners into not realizing they're powering the thing, but it's an absolute jungle. Not quite as bad as going over the Blackwall, but for just a random run? It's pretty intense. I looked over the lobby. Multiple IMPs wandered around, along with static turret demons, just waiting for an alert. I could see that the pathways out of the lobby were also pretty well secured just from a glance. That would take time to break through. Well, you wanted a mess of defenses. I didn't want to say perfect, that would give Sasha too much credit. Is there anything good on the server? Data or something? Nope. There's a reason no one comes here. Everything's been pulled, this entire server is dead code. But hey, it's what you wanted. Now can you tell your big senpai mysterious Neko Nyan why you want to fight demons? Please. I ignored her and moved in, heat bullet already loading. Time to get to War 8. I was halted as Sasha jumped in front of me with her arms out. What? I stopped in surprise, not sure what she was doing, but she smiled. This is the perfect chance for us to get a bit more used to each other. If we want to beat that bitch Kiwi, then we need to know how to netrun together. So let senpai help. I blinked, and realized yeah, okay. This wasn't just for me to grind some XP, but also to get used to working with another netrunner, something I hadn't really done before. The arena with Sasha had just been the two of us splitting up, and that was it. Okay. You're right. We should do this together. It's a good time to figure out how to work together. Yay. Sasha bounced up and down and then threw me a wink while trying to act cute. Then as your senpai sensei Summer, I'll guide you in the first steps of working together as netrunners. I regret everything already. Niu. Dash. Sasha Yakovleva. Ice is down. She called out and looked up, as Kitten finished off another demon, giving Sasha time to break through. She stepped into the data path and Motoko joined her in moments. Seriously, even after burning herself out, she still tended to breach jump around like a rabbit. Maybe Usagi-chan should be her new nickname? No, Kitten Nyan was much cuter. The path behind them closed, blocking the resurging demons from following. That worked well. Motoko said, as always her avatar had a tendency to look around, her eyes checking every corner as if just waiting for something to pop out. Yes. Your little sight demon was cute. Wouldn't mind trading for some data. No. That one's private. Her very uncute Kohai responded back instantly. Moo. Always so mean to her senpai. Not that Sasha didn't deserve it, she looked away. She'd never tried to take another netrunner under her wing like that, but cute little Motoko with her obvious crush had just been too much to ignore. Only for her to fuck it up. She squeezed her arm and relaxed. All good. Everything was good. She was flesh and blood. It was her, and not a monster under her skin. She wiped that thought from her brain, and focused on the here and now. Next room will have a data moat. You ever came across one? I know what it is. She said, but didn't really answer the question. Nova Preem. Okay, I'll get the bridge rezzed, and you just keep the demons off me, good? Yeah, leave them to me. Yay. Usually baby netrunners hate being on demon duty. I'm adopting you forever. Denied. Motoko offered back with her arms crossed. Sasha just cackled at the fact that Motoko was such a fluffed-up kitten, absolutely denying attention. She should invite her to hang out in real skin. That would be nice. The door opened, and they both entered the next security room. The data moat was just as she remembered, a massive chunk missing from the bottom of the room. It wasn't just a visual thing, even Motoko's little breach jumps wouldn't be able to cross it, not until the server's bridge was reconnected. It was a literal hardware disconnect. Turrets dropped from the ceiling. The IMPs controlling the server's attack programs already opening up. While a succubus also manifested. Oh no. That was the old school fully nude ones. Good luck, Motoko. Don't fall for her digital wiles. Senpai Sasha was busy. Sasha focused on her task. A succubus was a bit much for most newbies, but Motoko was a bit more than that. Okay, access node, entered, ice bypassed, there's the bridge connection, but it's behind a whole lot of protections. Whoever designed this room wanted to keep a netrunner stuck here for a while. Sasha looked over and relaxed. Motoko had already ripped the succubus apart. Despite the demon's 4 programs, it didn't matter to Motoko's speed. That girl really was quick. Not quite as fast as some of the best with a Keren or Sandy setup for a real connection. Or those that went all out and got deep net dive equipment. Sasha didn't have that sort of eddies, or a hospital she trusted to actually do that to her. Such was life. Another ice wall was cleared, and Motoko had wiped out the turrets, but the second wave had already activated. A small army of soldier demons. They were battering down Motoko's own ice that she'd surrounded both Sasha and herself with. Sasha had been ready to raise her own. It was rare to be able to truly trust your back on the net to another runner. Sasha was going to have to give her Kohai lots and lots of affection for being such a good girl. Ice cleared. Bridge is loading. She called out as she rose up, and set her own hacks to wiping demons to clear the path. Motoko's rapid light hacks were very clean. Low RAM, high output, but Sasha liked things a bit beefier. She started loading, relying on Motoko to keep her safe. 3 seconds, 5 seconds. 10 seconds. Upload complete. The wave of fire that exploded out of her hands wiped the entire group of demons, even causing some discoloration on the server walls. Ha! Take that! Sasha! Don't kill Steel. Motoko replied back, cutting the wind out of her sails. Wah! I was helping. I almost had them all. Her Kohai grumbled like a grumpy little kitten and headed for the bridge. Oh no. I'm sorry. She called out, rushing after. She'd ruined her little Kohai's big moment. She'd need to work extra hard to build up her confidence. Don't worry, kitten. Sasha is here. Dash. 250 XP gained. 250 XP gained. 250 XP gained. 250 XP gained. The numbers flowed, and I was a happy gamer. And here is the end. Like I said, just an old data processing server, but it has crazy defenses, haha. I was right, right. Yes, Sasha, this was actually surprisingly tough. It was good training. We work well together. Hee hee. Well, next time we should switch jobs. I want to see how well Kitten does breaking down ice instead of slaying demons. All I could do was nod. It would be a good idea, but... How about we call it here for today though? I've been on the net all day, and my chum has been watching for me. Oh, that's so smart. What a good girl. Having a chum watching out for you. You're such a good Kohai. She squat at me, and I once more got the feeling Sasha was sort of overcompensating a bit. It's just a good idea. It is. I wish Sasha could trust Maine or one of the others to watch over her, but they're no good. She admitted, and I actually felt kinda bad. Sure, it was a big ask to have Malcolm basically sit around all day, and I was kinda sorta his boss as well, but he could say no, but hadn't so far. I would have to thank him when I logged. Well, thanks, Sasha, I appreciate this. Yes. Want to meet up with Best Senpai tomorrow? Oh. Or is that too soon? Let's say the day after at least. I have other things to do. Yes. I'll see you then, okay? She asked, and I couldn't help but send her an actual smile. Yeah, see you then. Hee hee. We both disappeared from the server not long after, and I arrived back at my lobby, and logged out. Malcolm? Here, Toko. Malcolm called out as I rose up, blinking my eyes and stretching. Malcolm was laying across a few chairs with a laptop in his lap as he played some game on his agent while he watched. Hey, thanks Malcolm, really. I appreciate you covering me. Hey, it's cool, chum. Seeing Netrunner stuff is neat, and I don't like the idea of you laying there without someone covering you anyways. He offered as he sat up, placing the laptop on the chair he had his legs up on as he rose up and stretched himself. Oh man. I'm ready to move though. Yeah, me too. Want to grab some food? I can't, I ate like everything. I'm stuffed. I looked towards the bags of snacks we'd brought with, and yeah, he'd demolished it all. Alright, let's get out of here anyways. Definitely.